OK, well, joining us now to reflect on that result at Wembley, it's the former Manchester City player and manager, Stuart Pearce. Morning to you, Stuart. How you doing?
Morning, Stuart.
Oh, well, morning, Andy. Nat. Yeah, very good, thank you.
What an afternoon it turned out then for Arsenal. As you can imagine, the celebration police have been out. Some saying they shouldn't be over-celebrating like some might have been. But I know if it was my team, I'd certainly be enjoying it.
Yeah, to be fair, listen, I think the manner in which they've ended up turning the game round as well, the late goal and then the penalty shootout victory, I think buoyed them up. I don't think there was a lot to choose between either team, to be honest with you. You know, it was a really tight affair. And I think the good thing for the Premier League, having my sort of semi-neutrals hat on, I think Arsenal look as though they've certainly strengthened from last year. Their squad looks better than last year, and I think they'll have more of a challenge this year.
Yeah. You know Declan Rice very well, Stuart. You worked with him at West Ham. You know his strengths. I've spoke to you before about what he can potentially add to the many qualities that he's already got. Can you see him being a dominant player for Arsenal if he plays that little bit further forward?
I think if you keep encouraging him, I mean, in the game yesterday, there was probably about 2 or 3 moments where he just put a burst on to shut people down. I'd like to see that maybe 10 times during a game, Andy. You know what I mean? Where he not only uses that burst of power that he's got to shut people down, he uses it to burst past people on some surging runs. I think he's got that in him. The good thing, I think, he played further up the pitch yesterday. Partey played more of a holder. He pushed on and they used him as almost on the edge of the opposition's box on the press. And I think if he gets in those advanced areas, it'll force him into areas where he can assist and score a bit more for Arsenal.
And in terms, you said there, you know, it's good to see that Arsenal have strengthened. They're certainly going to be challenging Manchester City. Are they going to be their nearest challengers this coming season?
That's a difficult one, to be fair. I mean, I think Liverpool have got to be stronger this year, so I think they'll be closer. United got stronger and stronger as the season went on. But if I was pushed on one, that I would say probably Arsenal will be their closest challengers. And I'm interested to see how City actually do this year. You know, when you've sort of won everything last year, will there be a slight drop off at all? I think if they lost Rodri, that will be a big blow for him in the position that he plays and whatever. I'm looking at sort of Deck in one side and Rodri in another. And you're thinking, I don't think they can afford to lose Rodri at Manchester City. I think that'll affect them badly.
Yeah. Obviously, they've spent a lot of money just recently on Guardiola, who's a top player, Stuart. We know that. I'll be interested to see who he comes into the team for. I would have thought, and you can never be quite sure with Pep. Always difficult to read exactly what he's going to do. Never really sure, but I don't think I'd want to spend that sort of money and not play him and just be someone who's going to play here and there. So I'm intrigued to know you think he might come in and where he's going to start.
Yeah, as I say, he's got a lot of competition for places in the back line. I mean, he caught my eye. He played against England a few years ago at left back and played really well. Right. I don't think that's his strongest position, but he can play left back or in the centre of defence, you know. But they've certainly got good options there. Or whether they're thinking, look, we might be advancing John Stones into the midfield area if Rodri needs a break or he's injured at any given time, you know, so that frees up a space at the back.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it, like you say? But and interesting as well with Kovacic in the lineup, Croatia teammates. You'd think that if they're going to play together, they want to play together in the lineup because they know each other so well. Yeah,
Kovacic breezed it, didn't he, Stuart? You know, it's no problem for him. He won't give you the goals that Gundogan give you and the threat in the box, will he? So that's something that Pep's also got to look at. I just thought at the top of the field yesterday they looked a little bit short, didn't they? They just didn't look like they were. Jack Grealish looks like he needs games still, and Haaland didn't get a tremendous amount of service and support. So just up the top they looked a little bit short.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the factor of De Bruyne not being in the team as well, Andy, I think he's a real big supply line for Haaland. You know, I think they got a really good understanding. And without him supplying that link, I think that was the missing link. And when he come on, Haaland come off, you know. So he didn't have the benefit of him on the pitch at all.
But it is interesting when you think back to the last Community Shield when it was Manchester City against Liverpool.
Yep.
It was a similar situation in the sense of, I mean, Liverpool won 3-1, wasn't it, in the end? And it was all about Darwin Núñez and Haaland. They spent so much money on him. And, you know, we obviously all know what happened in the end. So in some ways, and also when I think back to the start of last season, as much as City weren't losing games, they weren't right at the races as we expected them to be. And that partly may be, Stuart, down to the fact that Pep Guardiola has mentioned that they have been a bit late in getting their pre-season started because they went so deep in competitions last season, so many of their players involved in internationals as well. So it just seems that they do need a little bit of time to speed up, to catch up with everybody else, maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And most of these teams as well, you know, they don't get in their pomp and their stride till after the new year. The teams that are, you know, we've seen it with United and Arsenal in the past when they've had really strong teams. Just after that New Year period, they go on these relentless unbeaten runs that manage to grab the title. So, you know, he's aware. I think going to all far-flung parts of the world is really tough on these teams, especially when you've got internationals that have been playing into June and whatever.
That's Stuart. And just finally, obviously we've got some new law, new tweaks to the laws and rule changes, etc., etc. How much is that now going to have to factor into a manager and coach's planning this last period of the game, which could go for another 10, 15 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, Andy, I've ever sat in a stadium and at the final whistle turned round to anyone and said, you know what, I've been shortchanged there. This game stopped too soon. Or as a player, you know what I mean? It's unbelievable. But I think what will happen is we'll have a month or 2 months of this, and then all of a sudden there'll be a groundswell of opinion from probably players and managers to say, look, this is just getting ridiculous. One game will go into 20-odd minutes at some stage.
It's going to, isn't it? It's bound to.
Yeah, and everyone will turn around and say, look, this is just getting a little bit ridiculous now. You know, I personally don't think that's the biggest issue in the game. You know, for me, you know, the referee's time waste. I saw people go down with injuries that weren't head injuries. So Timber's boot come off the other day and the referee stopped the game. I would wager the opinion that the referee's time wasting by stopping the game so a player can put his boot back on, you know what I mean? So
it's a good point.
It'll be interesting to see how it pans out. If the referee didn't keep stopping the game for every minor thing and stuck to sort of head injuries only, I think that in itself would certainly speed the game along. But I don't think there's much wrong with our game, is there, to be fair? You know, it's a quick game anyway.
Sleeping bags at the ready, I think. That's what we're all going to need, Stuart.
Yep.
Great to have you with us, Stuart.
Thanks, Stuart.
No worries. My pleasure. Have a good day. Take care.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.